Before you go any further, look below and click the subscribe button. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for coming in with Savvy, the Business Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Ambers. I am excited to bring in Lisa and Deevo today. These are two people that, came across, and I was looking at their information. I was like, okay, that could be interesting to talk to. And you know how I do it. Sometimes I stalk people and I, see what they're about. And I bring them on so we can have a chat to give you some information and some good feedback on some things and solutions that you're looking for. So, as we get into it, I'm going to start off by reading a brief piece of their bio. Then we're going to jump right in. Okay, Lisa's staff has been a fashion photographer, and connecting with people from all walks of life for over 20 years. In addition to running Lisa's staff photography, Lisa is currently the acting photography director and Instagram strategist for the upscale boutique magazine Local Life based in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Meanwhile, Deevo is a thought leader, photographer, videographer, blogger, serial entrepreneur, ex-college athlete, former corporate executive, a single father of two promising young ladies, and now an emerging strategy consultant and paid speaker who is fast making his way as an expert in creative digital architecture to help small businesses and entrepreneurs brand and market. Okay.
It's a mouthful. I need to shorten that up.
I would love to meet that guy. He sounds like a lot.
Oh my God, yes. So now in 2018, Lisa and Deevo founded Sprout Connectors, a full service creative agency with a focus on social media management and content storytelling. They mix an efficient blend of content savvy with a relentless creative lavishness and depth of imagination to serve up inspiring brand community. Wow.
That was a fabulous humble brag, wasn't it?
Oh,
Can you clarify some of those words for me so I understand what they mean?
you know what? Sometimes we need to toot our own horn. Nobody else will. So we need to tell our own story and toot our own horn.
And can I just say, I already feel like I'm bonded to you because you were saying stalking people. We stalk people. We just call it research and development now. But honestly, that's how Deevo and I got together. It was some good old stalking. So
I don't even sugarcoat it. I stalk you.
mm-hmm.
I just come in. So thank you both for jumping on and joining me this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
We're excited this actually happened because we've had 3 podcasts scheduled this week and all of them have canceled at the last minute. So it's been weird. We're like, we need to speak to somebody.
It's hard on our self-esteem.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully by the time we're done with this, I can help push that back up a little bit.
Good.
You read that bio. I already feel better.
Yeah.
I almost have to say, okay, here we go.
His mom wrote it, so yeah.
Oh, okay. That explains it. That explains it. So tell us, one, how did you, well, you already said you stalked each other. How did you get connected to form an agency? And both of you, kind of in the photography, video, industry. But what made you come together to start off with, building an agency?
I think when we're already talking about stalking, I think when you walk the walk, you can talk the talk as well. And we were already getting out there and trying to connect with people. And through that, that's how, this is the more professional way of telling our story, but that's how we engaged with each other. Mm-hmm. And I think being a small business, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, whether it was in 2018, whether it was before that, or even last year, the ability to connect with people makes all the difference. So reaching out, asking, someone in a like-minded business, hey, what are you doing in this situation? How are you dealing with this? What are your thoughts on this? And we just started collaborating. And through that collaboration, you just kind of build that network that you're engaged with. And we had a lot of people that were asking us for advice on certain things. And we would be doing speaking engagements or teaching workshops. And then throughout that, we kind of had that light bulb moment that, maybe there's a need for this, or maybe this is a direction that we should be going in, where we weren't really engaged in the idea of that before.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned the word connecting. I talk about that a lot, that before have your hand out waiting for payment, is so important to start connecting with people, build relationships. Granted, some are short term, but if there's a long term relationship out of that, you never know where that may go. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I want to jump back to, with a lot of businesses now, they're losing that connection piece. So, what would you say that, and this question is to either or both, what would you say that businesses need to do now to bring that back?
Is there a way that you can figure out that you can connect and provide value and also have your credit card machine in the same hand, do those simultaneously?
That's not how we do business. You know it.
I'm only joking.
You know it.
I'm only joking.
Hey, how you doing? Swipe here.
That's right. Before I give you this intellectual thought seed, can I just take down your credit card information?
Yeah.
I think it's a good question. I think Lisa and I were having this conversation with one of our clients yesterday. There are 10,000 of us doing the exact same thing. There's 10,000 Melissas, 10,000 Lisas, 10,000 Deevos who are trying to sell something to somebody because they think that they add some value to it. And I think before you can do that, before you can add value, you probably need to very clearly understand what the value is that you're offering to someone. If you are a business coach, or if you are an agency owner, or if you are a social media expert, what is it that makes you different than the other 10,000 people that are doing the exact same thing? And if you're very clear on that message, if you're very passionate about what your value proposition is, then you're not going to be seen like you're just trying to sell something to somebody. You're actually genuinely talking about the things that you love doing and that you do really well. And that sort of just shines. It's sort of like being on the sideline and watching your kid's soccer team. There's always like 2 or 3 kids on the field that are just really, really good at what they do. And it shows how passionate they are. The rest of the team is sort of like the supporting team members. So if you can shine like those 1 or 2 kids and not always try to sell something to somebody, but provide real value to them and giving back to them genuinely by offering them insights, then I think it sort of takes care of itself.
But social media is the new networking, is it not? And if we went to the old school, networking meetings, you can't show up at the beginning of the year and not show up again. You can't be that person that stands in the corner and just talks about other people or how's your drink and then leaves. You need to put in the efforts, you need to engage with people, and you need to do that on all platforms now. You need to be that person that people are, I don't want to say the moth to the flame, but they're engaged by you because you're insightful, you're giving value, you're just nice to be around, you're not a jerk, all of those things. It's just the same on social media.
Yeah. Can I add one more point to that? And
Absolutely.
it's not, I think people think, I just did a video on this. If you haven't stalked it, watch it. I think people think that they can just show up on social media and just start blabbing about this, that, or the other, but not really sharing a whole lot of information about why they're doing what they're doing in the first place. And people that are on social media, they're thinking that, okay, if I set up a social media account and I just start posting and just lambasting it with all sorts of things, then people are going to start. It's not a field of dreams concept. You can't just build something and then think people are going to show up anymore. Today's social media, you're competing with so many different people for the exact same thing. And people are like instant gratification. They're literally thumbing through thousands of feeds in a day. So why would they stop? There has to be some reason, and your reason to stop on my feed might be different than someone else's. But if you can add some sort of value and continually show up, like Lisa just said, it becomes sort of like a genuine, we call it the water cooler. It becomes this sort of water cooler where people can engage in conversations with you, as opposed to having to go out to a coffee shop or walk through a bar at 6 p.m. at happy hour with your ticket for 3 free beers and try to talk to some stranger. This becomes your new networking water cooler.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, again, going into like the real networking, old school sort of community that we were in when we set up our businesses.
You like that with the stickers, Lisa? Is that what you're going there? Remember, you ever had the stickers and they'd give you the free coupons when you walk in the door and like, this is for your 2 free beers, and I go mingle with people? It's like,
no, I missed out. I wasn't drinking. I don't know how much you were drinking, but I didn't. I gave my tickets away. Drink. totally hijacked this.
That was a little while ago. Yep, you'll walk in and you'll get a drink ticket or a sticker or something. Yep.
But
Melissa
I
knows.
think just the way that we set up our businesses intentionally before, that if we've been in business for more than a few years, we would actually go out, network with people, see what we could do to help them out, maybe do something free, maybe help out, maybe collaborate with them. We do the same thing on social media. And if you're shouting out other people, if you're giving other people praise, if you're mentioning them, any of those things, all the things that you would do in the real world, it translates over.
That is a great point because so many don't do that because they're so, yes, we are all in business to make money, but so many are in that sell. So they use car salesman mode all the time that we forget about those simple things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's okay to, interact with someone without selling,
Mm-hmm.
oh, congratulations on this, lunch that you've done, or happy birthday, or, those little things that people do remember and they look at. And on social media, that is a huge free marketing tool right now.
Mm-hmm.
But so many get it confused, and they're more aware or are more noticeable about the vanity piece of it.
Mhm.
Yes,
So that
absolutely.
they're more like, oh, I got to get likes, I got to get my numbers, got to get my numbers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I look at and which I'm sure you probably have already, even like on mine, I don't care about having 5,000 numbers if they're not engaging. That's the
Absolutely.
difference. I prefer to have some engagement opposed to having 5, 10, 20,000, people just to say I have these numbers, because what are those numbers going to convert to? And so many people
Absolutely.
forget about that, and they're so in tune with, I gotta have my numbers, gotta have my numbers. And recently talking with someone, they're putting out a product. I'm like, if you put this product out, that needs to be 3, 4 times a day. You need to be on there talking about it, posting about it, talking about it, talking about it. But you can't get into the vanity of, oh, well, it needs to look a certain way. I have this color scheme that I'm doing, and I got, okay, do you want to sell this thing, or you want to hold it for a souvenir? You know, what is it you want to do? And so many get mixed up with that vanity piece of it, and not realizing you got to get in the mud. Okay, let's do this. Forget about the vanity right now. Let's push this thing and get it out. So what do you say to now post COVID? Yes, things are opening back up. Events and things like that are starting to happen again, but a lot is still on social media. A lot of virtual events, webinars, conferences, all these things are still happening virtually. But what do you say to that entrepreneur that's looking for, to get back out, which is great, but don't forget about the social media piece and marking on that, and disregard that vanity piece and do more engaging.
Can I go back to that vanity piece for a second?
Yes.
I don't think you should be surprised, or at least I'm not, that has sort of become the standard for people on social media. We're trained from the day we're born
Right.
to compare ourselves to other people. We're brought up in this country where we compete nonstop in every facet of our life, from school to grades to what we wear to what we drive to the house we live in. So we live in this comparative analysis world. So that just translates right into social media. So your answer to your question should be that and that alone.
Mm-hmm.
If you can somehow be different than everyone else and show your value genuinely, and stop trying to compare yourself and look at your social media numbers, your followers mean jack shit if nobody's
Yes,
engaging with
sir.
you. They literally mean absolutely nothing. But the problem is that social media 5 years ago was exclusively based on vanity metrics. How many followers did you have? How many you were suddenly a social media influencer, and all of those metrics were based upon that. So everyone was trained subconsciously to be like, I have to have followers, I got to have I've got to have all these things, because that's how I become famous and wear yoga pants on Saturday, half naked on a bridge. And that's not what social media is anymore. So yeah, it's not the least bit surprising. Anyhow, I went off on a tangent there, but Lee,
No, I think that's our favorite subject, though, maybe one of
But
them.
no, I mean, it's that's the realistic piece of it, that so many want to sugarcoat it and not really say what it is. But that's, I mean, plain and simple, that's exactly what it is. And we have to get out of that habit of that thing of what we've been taught of get your numbers up, numbers, numbers, numbers. But if you can't convert those numbers, you can't go deposit a like. That's what I tell people.
I love that.
You cannot go deposit that. So,
And it
That's
doesn't happen overnight. Everyone thinks that
yeah.
it's just like everything else. Like nobody wants to be involved in the process. It's just like running your business. It's being in a relationship. It's raising your kids. It's your yard, whatever it is. There's a process to it. Success and the end result that you want don't happen overnight. And social media is no different. I'm not going to start following you, Melissa, unless I see you consistently showing up and adding real value to my life and being very purposeful about it and letting me see, like, people don't buy your product. People buy your personality and your reason. Why are you doing this? I'm going to do business. I've told this story before, but I have 100 people a month contact me or send me DMs for some reason or another. I probably see at the very least 1,000 different feeds over the course of a month. But I never reach out to anybody unless there's some compelling reason for me to follow them. I reached out to Lisa because I had been sort of stalking her, if you will, for a bit. And I was seeing all of her content that she was putting out. She was a fellow photographer. She was traveling the world. She was doing cool shit that I was like, that's kind of stuff I would like to do. Let me reach out to this woman and ask her a question. That's how it begins. You start these conversations just like you would in real life. And before you know it, you have people that are, hey, you ever seen that Melissa? She's posted about this yesterday. You got to go check her out. Or Lisa, like, that's how social media works. It's a water cooler.
It's interesting to me, though, and I agree with everything that you said. And we were having a conversation the other day about something that I had wanted to post, but I was, and this happens to everyone. I think we go through cycles with social media too. Sometimes you're killing it, and other times it's killing you, right? It's just. And there's something that I wanted to post, but I had been scrolling through social media and I was like, gosh, why do I want to post this? It was just, a quick little reno that I had done on my home. And for me and my small little home, I was really excited about it. And then you start looking at what other people are posting and you're like, well, that's like a $20 million home. Why would someone want to look at my small ass home? So I think you can tend to get really intimidated by social media. But you can't let that stop you because there's a tribe for everyone and you put it out there and people are going to relate to you and what you're putting out there, someone is going to be interested in. If not, at least Deevo has his mom to do that. But we, with our clients, almost every client, every monthly meeting that we go through their monthly stats and everything like that, there's always the ROI and the KPIs. Everybody wants instantaneous growth, instantaneous gratification, and they don't realize that it is the long game.
Very long. Yeah, it definitely does not happen overnight. And the other thing that, people, they are aware of it, but just not really sucking it in, is that when you put valuable things out there, that's not sex, it's not mess, it's not gossip, it's not none of that other stuff, you're not going to get a boatload of likes and interactions on that, because now you're actually talking about something that means something. And people are not quickly attracted to that. People are quickly attracted to those vanity type things or celebrity this or whatever. But you also have to remember, everybody that's scrolling through and stalking you and looking at your information is not necessarily going to click a like or share button.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. A year later,
know.
They come back to you and they ask you a question. They're like, hey, I saw you do this. And you're like, gosh, that was a year ago. Why did you wait so long? It takes a year.
Yeah. And another point to that, Melissa, is not everybody is your avatar. It's just like going into you asked about how can business owners still social and virtual and physical, but I think everyone sort of, Lisa always says this, if you're trying to sell to everyone, you're selling to no one. So how can you sort of niche down and find your value and your voice? And when you start doing that and you're very purposeful and strategic about that and passionate about that, you'll find the right people that want to connect with you. It doesn't happen overnight, but at the same context, it doesn't take forever. Like if you can find a way to be consistent about it, you're going to be heard and people are going to start flocking to you. Yeah. If you're adding value, you have to be adding value. Like there has to be some value to it.
Right. You're absolutely right. How does storytelling fit into branding and marketing?
You
Let
gonna
me,
answer that?
um,
But before you
go
answer
ahead.
that, Lee, go back to the first question that you asked that I totally took you down a tangent. There's no reason why you can't have physical space. What Set up coffee date with somebody, find somebody in your market and that you follow and be like, hey, would you like to meet me for coffee today? I would just love to connect. I've been following you for a few weeks. You put out, I met somebody yesterday. I was looking for a photographer. I'm having coffee with him next week when I get back in town. He's just looking to do an internship. And I was like, let's just meet and connect. Like, there's no reason why you still can't do the physical piece. All right. Sorry, Lee, storytelling.
And go. Um, let's cycle back and talk about a little bit maybe about the strategy of our business, how we set up our business, and how we use that now with our social media. Our social media has changed the way that we do business in so many ways, and it's made our business and our strategy around our business, they've kind of worked hand in hand and made us more successful because we've stepped back. We, with clients, we do a brand audit. We help them to decide who they are, who they're speaking to, what their voice is, what they're exceptional at, what their secret sauce is, all of that. And from that, you can go forward because you're not in this for the short run, you're in this for the long run. And even though you may morph and change and grow and become better, you've got to know how to tell your story. Everybody talks about being authentic. Well, it's hard to make things up and not feel them and believe them and keep talking about them. You have to know your strategy. You have to know your story. You have to have that ingrained in you, what you love doing, because you're going to be talking about it with people on social media, with clients for a long time. So you've got to know your stuff and believe in it.
I agree with all of that. And the only other piece that I would add to that is storytelling is at the center of who we are as humans. That's what forges the connections. That's why Lisa and I connected. That's why you and I might connect, three of us, because there's something in common that we find with each other. There's something that you might say or might post or might believe in. And I'm like, holy shit, I believe the same thing, Melissa. We should have a little conversation about that. Let's tell some stories and exchange value adds to each other. Like, that's the whole point, right? That literally is why that's probably why we moved out of forests and into cities, is because we came together, tried to tell stories about the saber-toothed tiger we were both hunting and got mauled on and whatever it was, and then the next thing you know, we're building factories and automobiles. Like, it's storytelling was at the center of all of that.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna touch on something that a lot of people don't talk a lot about, but I think it's needed. Share the difference between sharing your story versus your resume.
I think it's the difference between documenting and creating. Documenting is telling the things that you love, the things that you do, the things that you suck at, the things that you fail at, the things that you succeed at. Telling your resume is like that ridiculous long-winded approach you just said about Lisa and I, mine specifically, not Lisa's, is like, who cares, dude? Okay, that's a really big resume, but who cares? Like, who are you really? Let's talk about what do you really, at the end of the day, why would I want to get into the trenches with you and fight
Right.
alongside?
Honestly, have you not been? I've been on that really bad first date where someone is, they're beating their chest and they're telling you all the things that they do,
Yeah.
they can't tell you enough of what they've done, and they've basically saved the world, and you're just like, oh my gosh, let's move on to the next person. You want someone that again is adding value, that you can connect with, that you can understand, and it's not a one-sided thing.
Yeah. And the reason I ask that is a lot of times when you're in conversations with people at networking events or virtually, they get into, oh, I've worked here, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. It's like,
Nobody
okay.
likes a name dropper.
So it's like you're sitting and you're waiting, and it's like, okay. And, that's all that they have. And a lot of people don't really understand that your resume is not your true heartfelt story.
Mhm.
Um, and that's why I asked that question to, say the difference between the two, because so many get hung up on that because we get in that mode of desperation of, I got to build my business. I need clients. I need to make money. And I don't want to fail. And they get into that of, I don't want to piss anybody off. I need to be sure that I'm, proper, pronouncing this right. I'm saying this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Oh, wait, that's textbook. Let me say and do this. Instead of just being authentic, just relax, take a breath, and just, chat.
But how does that come? Does that come through experience? Does that come through age? Does that come through self-confidence? Like, how does a person get there?
I think it's a mixture of all, because you can have someone in their 40s or 50s doing the same thing. And then you can
Hmm.
have someone in their 20s that just spill out, do their story, and they're adding that value and attracting the people that they want to attract. So I think it's a mixture of all of the above. So depending on where you are in life and your experiences will make a I think that will determine how you can get to that place. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
practice, and being open to the responses. So if you are talking to someone and they want to give you a critique, or if you have a mentor, or whatever, be open to what that is, good or bad. A lot of people always want the fluff and the good, pat me on the back. But sometimes you have to get deep down and say, you need to do this, you have to fix this, or change the way you're doing this. And you have to be open to that. And I'm not saying it's gonna always happen like right then at that moment. It may take a little time to really
Hmm.
absorb,
Hmm.
but you have to eventually be in that place to absorb some of that, to start wanting to make that change.
Hmm.
Well,
Absolutely.
there has to be some level of self-awareness as well. Like, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Some people are just clueless on who they really are. And unless they have somebody who is going to be candid with them and call that out, and they're willing to accept that feedback and be a little bit introspective about it, they're never going to have that conversation. They're always going to be that Friday Night Light quarterback who still wears his leather jacket to the bar at 45 years old. Like, at some point, nobody cares that you were the quarterback in high school, dude. That was 27 years ago. Like, what are you doing right now? And if that
Yeah.
person isn't interested in having that conversation with themselves, having that self-awareness with themselves, like, that's not your people, then move on.
Mm.
I love that. Do you not walk away from those conversations though and think, I get it, you're insecure, you know?
Yeah, that leads us into the next question: how to read the room, how to build and retain those connections.
2 ears. Listen, watch, observe.
That's
Simple.
Don't
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
like,
simple.
man, you can pick up very quickly if someone doesn't want to be around you. Like, if you can't smell that, like, let's go back to the self-awareness conversation.
Yeah. I think that do go back to self awareness, because some of us don't know how to pick that up. You don't know how to read the room, even if you're just out having fun with friends. You have to understand and know how to read that room to know, is this conversation for us? Okay, let's change the subject. Should we not bring certain topics up? You have to listen and read the room and understand who you're talking to. I was on a podcast with someone last week, and at the end of that podcast, he's like, "Oh wow, I really like that you listened to what I was saying." And I'm like, "What? We're doing an interview, so why wouldn't I listen?" And as he started talking, he, kind of said the same thing you did in the beginning of, it's just more so it's structure. We got these questions. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. And not listen to what, a person is saying to chime in on, those conversations in certain topics. So it's simple as that. It's opening your ears, listening, and just being aware and understanding when a conversation is done and you need to move on, or this just isn't the right conversation or space for you.
True story.
I love that.
True story. I have a family member that
Who is
doesn't
it?
he doesn't listen to anything you say. No matter what you
This is a
say,
safe place.
no matter what you say, he turns it around about him. And so sometimes when I'm having conversations with him, I'll literally just fuck with him and I'll just say random things to see if he's actually listening. Like, he'll tell me a story he just said, and I'll be like, dude, did you see the story of the lion safari last night on National Geographic? And he just like, yeah. So what anyway, just keep telling a story about himself. I'm like, you didn't hear a word I just said, brother. Not a single word I just said. Anyway, yeah.
But that just goes to tell you that listening is a skill. It's an art,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll take you far.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds, that is so true. Because, we're born with our senses, we have ears, and it seems like that should be so simple to do, but it's not. You find that it's not. and people just don't have that skill to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be learned. I mean, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. So it's not like it's not like something that can't be learned, but it's going to take a candid conversation from somebody who you'd actually like. You know, a complete stranger can't go up to you like Melissa and be like, did you hear anything I just said? All you do is talk. Like, that's not going to go over well. So somebody has to have that candid conversation with that person. And again, that's not my place to judge. It's just, it needs to be a candid conversation.
Well, that's, real. That goes back to, being able to accept that critique from someone that's giving it to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there's, it's a tool that just not through our personal relationships, but through our business. If we're listening to where are clients struggling with you, where is that gap? Where's the communication not crossing over? What are they asking for all the time? What am I missing by not listening properly? And as well, like in your social media, there's tools for you to listen. You have analytics for everything. So anything that you're putting out there and you're thinking, well, this is great what I just posted, they're going to love it, and nothing happens. Well, there's a reason for that. You have your analytics. You can look into that and you can listen to what people are saying.
That goes to being self-absorbed. That so many people, it's like, I love it. I'm passionate about it. I think this is great. I think but it's not about you. And a lot of
disappointing
entrepreneurs get that it's not about you. Who cares about you if the consumer is not interested in it and it's not valuable to them? Who cares? Right? And it goes back to I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, but Mr. Wonderful, how he gets who cares? On the show. But yeah, it's not about you.
Well, there's a fine line between that, and I agree with that statement, but your social media is about you, right? It's your social media,
right.
But how can you frame what you're passionate about that's about you that simultaneously adds value to someone else's life? So you have to be able to find that fine line, that juxtaposition between being selfless and at the same time self-loving, because it is sort of your space. This is, I use my social media as my cathartic journal to sort of express the weirdness that pops into my head sometimes. So when I write that stuff, I have to sort of think about who would read this and why would someone want to read this and what value does it add to your life. And so you have to be able to, again, it goes back to self-awareness, understanding your position in the whole sort of diorama of life and everyone else who's consuming your information.
Right. So when I say it's not about you, that's what I'm saying is that, it's not about, just because you think this is big, huge, wonderful. If you can't offer something that you're passionate about and all of that, that attracts the consumer that you're trying to attract, it's just not going to make a difference. So it is your store. It is your space. So creating that space to put that information out. And you was talking earlier about worried about your competitors and things like that. It's the blue ocean strategy. Don't worry about your competitors. How are you disrupting that? It's going. Don't worry about your competitor. Worry about how you can disrupt the market and make yourself seen.
There's something to be said about being confident enough that you're not out there fighting tooth and nail and looking on someone else's account. I wonder what their pricing is. I wonder what they're doing. What are they putting out there? There's a lot of energy that you're expelling that it's not pushing you forward. But there's something to be said about being confident enough to reach out with your competitors to, if you can't do a certain job or project, be able to recommend them because you're confident enough to know that that business is still going to come into you. There's plenty of business out there. There's one thing that you're doing really well that people really like. So, keep doing it and put your energy where it needs to be.
It's kind of funny though. It's worth having a conversation about, and this is a conversation as old as time. You can post something on your social media that is superfluous to the value of life, whether you be scantily clad or you're doing something vulgar or whatever. And it attracts a massive amount of vanity metrics to it. Yet Lisa can post something that's sort of cathartic and it's like mind blowing and it's a deep thought about something. It's a philosophy on something, and no one will even respond to that. We're talking about social media. So what is that? what is that conversation that you need to understand about the type of posts that resonate with the large majority of the population versus that one post that connected with that one person? And you need to understand which one add more value to your life. Do you care that 1 million people responded to your scantily clad photo, or do you care that one person actually took the time to write you a note and be like, I love what you just said. It changed my life. I was really having a really tough time this weekend. And what you just wrote really sort of like stuck with me and struck me. And I'm like, I just appreciate that. So I think different people have different value adds. We're having a conversation that has a lot of subjectivity and relativity to it. For us personally, it sounds like we all agree, like we more care about the really compelling relationship. But there are some people who are just looking for the vanity. And if that's what your thing is, then like, that's your thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
You're absolutely right. You're right. So like you said, like with the posting and, the vanity piece of it, what would you say the difference is from posting content and telling your story?
I think what Deevo was just saying, when you can garner just some sort of engagement, something that tweaks someone's interest, they're going to come back. There's a reason for them to follow you. They're more engaged, they're more connected. So anything that can connect people through storytelling, through something that they can relate to, and they're like, I've been through that situation, or I thought I was the only person that felt like that. I think that's where it makes the difference. And you're not going to do that with every post.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes it's easy to be discouraged, but again, it's the long game. You just keep plugging away. And you find an easy way to do it. You find an easy way to strategize, to batch your time, to make it happen.
I'm sorry, say the two options again, storytelling, and what was the other piece, Melissa?
Just posting content.
One is purposeful, one is not. I think that there are two different streams of consciousness in social media, especially like on Instagram, for example. Your story is sort of your stories. They call them story for a reason, because that enables you to kind of be a little bit more documentary about it and give behind the scenes type of things. But I think it really it all boils down to the purpose. Like, why are you on social media? What's the purpose behind this? Are you here to just sort of document your life and hope that other people follow you? Or are you trying to make a difference? Or are you trying to sell something? It really all boils down to the purpose behind what you're trying to accomplish. What's your objective?
And there's no shortage of content, especially with us too, the amount of photo shoots that we do, the amount of people that we're covering, tens of thousands of pictures just on my phone, not to mention hundreds of thousands of actuations on my camera that I go through every year, just as you do. There's no shortage of content, but it's the purpose for it. You're absolutely right.
So this conversation, we can go on and on and on, because the way, social media is, and the content that's out there, the storytelling, getting your brand out there, all of these things that surrounding building your business and branding. What would be a final nugget that you would give our listeners?
I would say, and I'll just say this quickly because Deevo will probably have something super swell to say. I would say, if you're feeling frustrated with your social media, if you're feeling frustrated with the way that you're connecting with people, take a step back and go through, and this isn't a big sell, but we do branding exercises with clients. Figure out how to step back and figure out how to tell your story, why you're in business, what your purpose is, what your strategy, what your superpowers are. Take that step back, figure out those pillars within your business that you want to talk about, and you are, they make up who you are. And step back, do that, and then go forward with a purpose, with a strategy, with a way to connect people, with a way to tell your story, instead of just flinging stuff out there just to put something up, post something up. Have that strategy and that purpose, and that will make the difference. And you won't get burnt out.
Thank you. Deevo?
I agree with that as well. I think people have it backwards. It should be brand messaging first, social second. And then, so once you understand, this is all assuming you're trying to use social media to promote your business or to connect with people. Understand why you're in business and what value you add first. We talked about it at the outset of that. And then once you understand that, it does a couple of things. It enables you to be really focused on what you're going to put out there, but it also enables your listeners who are observing and watching. And by the way, consumers are really smart. We have so much information at our disposal now. We're very quick to make a decision on stuff. And we're very well informed. It does two things. It enables you to be more passionate and purposeful about your content and the stream of consciousness that you're delivering. But simultaneously to that, because you're so purposeful and so you're so passionate about it, because you're clear on your brand message, your audience is much more better enabled to understand why you're there in the first place. So that connection is forged, that storytelling is forged easier that way. And you don't have to post every day. People think they have to just like throw everything out there. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
If that's what your thing is, that's great. But you don't feel obligated. I haven't posted anything in a week because I've been caught up with
posting for other people.
Well, yeah, I've been posting for other people. It doesn't have, you need to be consistent about it, but it doesn't have to happen all day long, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Like, take a break, man.
Although I've had people, when I've kind of fallen off and taken that break from social media, that have texted me and DM'd me and being like, is everything okay? Like, yeah, it's actually great. I never understand how there's a lot of people that have like 40 stories out there a day. I'm like,
ooh, how
are you doing that? Like, your family must hate you right now. Like, be in the moment. It's an accessory with your business, and it's a way to communicate and reach out, but it shouldn't overtake your life either.
I like that, accessory for business. You should copyright.
I was like, yeah, I like that. Can I borrow that?
I'm already taking your likes to the bank. You can't take a like to the bank.
Okay, so there
I got
we go.
that. We're good.
Exchange. Yeah. So thank you guys for jumping on and chatting with me today. Let everyone know how they can reach you, your social media, websites, all the good stuff.
You want to hit it, Deevo? Or?
Well, you can find us personally. Lisa is Lisa Staff Photo. She's on Instagram, and I believe your Facebook is the same, right?
Everything's the same. My site is Lisa Staff Photography, Lisa Staff Photo, all that stuff.
But if you want to find us as a unit together, it's Sprout Connectors. And that's plural, Sprout Connectors on social media, website. And then I'm Fusion Photog for me individually, short for photography on Instagram and Facebook, everything else.
And check him out because he's probably going to start posting again.
Do you want your business in front of an international audience? Advertise with us today. Savvy the Business Podcast. Send us an email at media@savvymag.biz. That's media@savvymag.biz. Send it today. Don't get left out. Thank you for joining us on Savvy the Business Podcast. If you want to be a guest, send an email to media@savvymag.biz. That's media@savvymag.biz. Don't miss out on the opportunity to be heard by millions.